Hey y'all, welcome to No Invite Necessary podcast, and I'm your host, Nolita, aka TheMonaLita. This is where I share the real stories of the grinders, the hustlers, the doers, and the dreamers who have faced some of life's toughest challenges. And they've come out on top, not only better, but stronger and wiser and way more fulfilled. I'm talking about practical resilience, growth, and transformation. This show is for anyone who's ever felt sidelined or underestimated. Whether you're finding inner peace, rebuilding after a crisis, or making waves in your community, here is where I spill the tea with my guests on their hustle and the lessons learned along the way. Remember, it's your journey, your hustle, your rules. Let's get into it.
No invite necessary. No invite necessary podcast on the road.
All right. Episode 1. This is episode 1, y'all. I am super excited. I'm very nervous. I have my co-producer here, Dominique, my cousin, my sister, my mini-me. She is behind the camera. So first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your loyalty. Thank you for your support. Always just encouraging me to be a better version of myself, but to be kind to myself. So I love you, and I thank you so much. I didn't want to do this for anybody but you. So yes. This is a long time coming, y'all. As I mentioned in the intro, I'm Nolita. I'm the host. This is No Invite Necessary podcast, and Episode number 1. Yes, starting over from Houston, Setbacks to Chicago. So these first few episodes are really going to be me just giving you guys some context of who I am, why I am an expert in experiencing setbacks and finding success, and more so redefining what success looks like for me, and not what my parents told me, not what society, told me it should look like, and finding my own way, my own journey, my hustle, my rules. So let's get into it. I am originally from Chicago, West Side. I am from Chicago, West Side, true and through. And grew up here, graduated from high school here in North Lawndale, in the Lawndale community. And then in 2004 through 2009, I was living in Baton Rouge because I attended and graduated from the baddest HBCU with the baddest yard, Southern University, A&M College in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I got my bachelor's from there, and then after that, I went over to Houston, where I lived for about 7 years, I want to say. 7 years. Ended up going to PV during that time, and I got a master's in education from Prairie View, which is right outside of Houston. And then I've been back here in Chicago for a little over 10 years, almost 10 years. It'll be 10 years in January. A lot has happened, okay? A lot has happened in the transitions of all of the things and just experiencing life and going from, being a little girl growing up on the west side of Chicago to literally randomly going to college in a state and city that I had never even visited until me and my parents pulled up that good August in 2004. Picture it. It is 2015. Let's say it's March 2015. I'm living in Houston. I am working in higher education for a private institution. Strong air quotes here. Very strong air quotes. And I got laid off. And in the moment, I really thought that was the worst thing that could happen to me, but I handled it with grace. And when I was laid off, they said that, you're just not bringing in the numbers. You're not, signing enough students, because they had me signing students up with student loans, and it was a conflict with my ethics and my morals. So I wasn't really into it. You're not making the numbers, and, that just doesn't work for us. And, but thank you for your service. And I could have gone off, because at this point, I had already developed like anxiety and I was super depressed, and I just did not like this job because I knew that it was not a career for me. So they let me go. I shook my old boss's hand. I said, thank you for whatever it is that I may have learned at this place, whatever the hell that could be. Hadn't come to a resolution with that. And then I walked out the door. And then for the next, let's say March through August, I was receiving unemployment, and I was applying to jobs, not getting any callbacks, no responses. And when you grow up being told to do what is expected of you and what will get you the supposed American dream, which is don't have kids early, don't go to jail. All of the things that you just technically shouldn't do if you consider yourself to be a decent person, you just shouldn't do that. But go to school, find a trade, get an education, figure out what you're going to do with yourself. And to do all of that and to be let go and to not be able to find a job as quickly as I assumed with having this education, especially on the back end of then also having recently acquired my master's, it was shocking to me.
Oh, you were done with your master's?
Yeah, I was done with my master's. I had gotten my master's. I went to school 2010 through 2012. So this was 3 years after.
So your plan was to stay in Houston?
My plan was to stay in Houston. I was dating a person. Dating a person, and we're not going to go into great detail about the dynamics of that relationship on this episode. But what I will say is that, let's say around October, he came to me. And because we were living in the same neighborhood. So I literally lived, let's say, across the street from him. Whatever. So he walks in, I'm sitting in my bed, and I probably had just finished looking for some jobs and applying on LinkedIn and this, that, and the third. And he walks in and he sits down on the corner of my bed, and, we're just gisting. And then he just says, yeah, I think we should break up. Straight face. No laugh. And because we were in a flow of a conversation, I was like, what you talking about? Like, no, for real, what you talking about? And he was like, no, I think that we should break up. He was like, I'm not happy. Now, mind you, 2 days before, I had the thought to ask him, how are you feeling about our relationship? Because I started to come to the realization that me not working, me not having any income coming in, me having to ask my family for money, which was something that I had not been accustomed to because I had been away for, at that point, 12 years. And I had acquired being able to just make my own life. So that was very humbling on top of that. And I became probably more so a little bit more on autopilot than I would have preferred to in my relationship. So he says that, and I'm just completely like dumbfounded, shocked, because I really felt like this was the person that I was going to end up with. I felt like this was going to be my husband. We had families that met and all this stuff like that. So it's just like, of course, this is not another thing on top of me not already having a job, that now my relationship is ending. I'm not earning any money. Okay. He wanted me to lean on him for that in that way. Yes, for support. And because I was resistant to that, simply because I was not, it's like I'm not your wife, and also I hadn't met particular members of his family as of yet. So I didn't want to let that be an assumption. So like even just the thought of like moving in together wasn't something that I considered. So, we went through the breakup, and of course in typical breakup fashion, you have the weeks or the months where you going back and forth, because I just didn't know what my life was supposed to look like without this person, because we had spent, from the day that we had started to date, we spent every single day together, like every single day together. So for that to end, that was a challenge for me. But that put me in a position where I had to really look at, okay, so what am I going to do? Trying to stay in Houston. I'm applying for jobs. I'm not getting any responses. I am no longer in this relationship that I thought was going to lead somewhere. My unemployment is about to run out. My family is helping me. Is that really responsible for me to, while they're offering it at almost 30 years old, what sacrifices do I need to make that aren't going to impact other people? And I came to the resolution that meant that I needed to pack up my life in Houston and move home. And that was scary for me because, again, I had been so independent and I really felt like a failure. I felt that I was coming back home, and even with the education that I had, accomplished and the degrees that I had, that I just was not, I didn't come back with the win that I thought, like the full package. I didn't come back with the education and the husband, or the education, the husband, and the house and the baby. So to be moving back into my childhood room, and my childhood room is probably as big as this office, and I have 12 years of life that I've now had to condense, pack up, put in storage. It was shocking as hell to me. Like, it was really, really shocking to me. It was definitely a low point for me because I looked in the mirror. It's this hallway that my mom has, and it's a mirror on the door. And I passed that mirror for like my entire life, essentially. And I walked by it probably like that first night, and I was shocked by who I saw looking back at me because I didn't realize that I had put on so much weight. I mean, I was dating a Nigerian guy, so we eating all types of, very rich, heavy foods, and I just kind of let myself go or more. So I wasn't aware of how my body was changing because I was so detached and just so really not coming to a place of realizing that I was depressed and that I was operating in depression. So when I moved home and I'm looking around my room and all of my stuff is in here, and my parents are having to adjust to parenting now a 30-year-old versus the last time I was in this room, I was literally a girl. So it's a different approach that they had to take with parenting me. I'm still processing this breakup. And I remember one night I was coming back from North Riverside Mall, and me and him, this was like our last final conversation. We were on FaceTime, and we were still doing the, why didn't it work? But his perspective was, but you moved back, you didn't fight for us. And I'm just like, what did you expect for me to do? I don't have a job. I have to be responsible. I can't, just because my family is offering it does not mean that I need to take it. There are sacrifices I have to make at this very big age. And the conversation just went left, and it was very toxic. I walk in the house, I park my car and I walk in the house, and my stepdad, he is sitting on his recliner, and I'm like, oh my God. He broke it. Like, I literally you cannot make sense of what I was saying. He hops up, my bonus dad hops up, and he's like, wait, what happened? You got robbed? What happened? What happened? And I'm like, no, he broke up with me and I can't take it. And I'm sliding down the door. Like, this is the most melodramatic Lifetime movie channel. Like, just, it was bad. It was bad. And he stopped and he looked at me and he was like, girl, I thought somebody robbed you. Ain't nothing wrong with you. He was like, ain't nothing wrong with you. You coming in here like somebody done stuck you up on the way in. And I was like, no. He was like, you'll be all right. You will be all right. But it sounded harsh at that time. But really looking back, I appreciate the honesty, but also I appreciate my mom for just how she really had to take her time with me, because the way that I was crying and weeping, like, it was challenging. Ooh, that was challenging. That was challenging. But I still had to figure out how to get beyond being stuck in that setback, because it's like, girl, so now that you're home, you're starting from scratch. So what are you going to do? My mom had a perspective of, this is always going to be your house. So remember, out of every life experience that you have, you can always come home to reset, restart, and figure out what you want to do. My bonus dad had to adjust his take on parenting me, because my mom had to tell him, like, it would be different if she was a male, but this is a girl child. This is your daughter. So you have to handle her with a little bit more of white glove service in that sense, because of the emotional aspect. And she was like, and also remember, she not coming back home with no babies. She not coming back home after a divorce. Bankrupt, like none of that. Like, she's coming back home to educated and to restart and to heal from a breakup, and we need to support her. And yeah, I think over time, because I was at home for like 2 years, it just gave me the time that I needed to be with family and to become reacclimated in being an adult in Chicago. I had never experienced being an adult and living here. So I only knew it from growing up until 18. So experience in Chicago just in general is just different once you grown, especially when you're in your 30s and you out here shaking and you moving. I had a set of moments where the healing had to start with me walking past that mirror and seeing that I didn't recognize who I was or even who I wanted to be moving forward. And that was different for me. So I made changes as far as I started to work out 6 days a week. I changed my diet. I stopped eating meat. And I recently just started back eating meat after not having any land meat for the last 10 years. So that alone has just been child. But thank God for the beef, because I'm back to eating the beef. But so yeah, I changed my diet because my skin, like when I say that stress really can show up in your body, I had gained stress weight and my skin was literally covered. My face was covered in hyperpigmentation. And I had always struggled with acne my entire life. But the hyperpigmentation was at an all-time high. So I really focus on myself. Yes, I'm looking for a job. Yes, I'm being consistent and diligent with that. But how am I pouring into myself? How am I loving on myself and being present? Like, girl, pinch yourself. Are you really feeling what you need to feel? Or are you recognizing what you're feeling right now? I don't think I've ever taken a break in the sense of,
I'm okay not having a job or not looking.
oh yeah, I've never been okay with not having a job. I've never been okay with not having a job. And I think it's because of the only child. I'm a hybrid of an only child. I'm my mother's only child, but my daddy I got siblings from my father. So I don't know. I've never been comfortable with that, because as an only child, I want to do it myself. I want to do it myself, because then I don't have to ask anybody for help, because most times as an only child, you ain't got nobody around to ask for no damn help anyway. So you got to figure it out yourself.
But if your family was supporting you coming home, how are you healing and grinding and hustling at the same time?
Because I was finding a different way to do it and to be consistent with making progress with purpose. Because you can do a lot of things and they may seem good, but they also may be a distraction. So yes, I was living in Houston for all those years and going to school and, working. And I was more so checking the box of, yes, I'm supposed to be employed, so I have a job. But was it going to lead into the career that I've developed now? Absolutely not. That I know people who literally still work at that place, dead end. No movement up. There's no progression in that sense. So I learned how to progress with purpose, for sure. Progressing with purpose looked like me looking for a job while also realizing that I needed to work on developing my own skill set. So, yes, I'm on LinkedIn. Yes, I applied to probably over 1,500 jobs between 2015, January 2015 to August of 2016. But I saw that there was a deficit in the industry that I wanted to break into, because remember, I'm changing from working in higher education to knowing that I absolutely do not want to work in education. I had to be honest with myself in just taking a pause and saying, okay, yes, my parents said I needed to go to school. Yes, I was influenced by an ex to go and get my master's in education administration. But what do I really want to do? What can I commit to long term that feeds my creativity? And that was social media. I started to realize that I was spending a lot of time on this new app called Instagram. But I also noticed that a lot of the brands and a lot of the companies that I enjoyed or that I, purchased, they didn't have any presence. So I saw that that was going to be an area that I could potentially gain experience and get in on the ground floor as brands become more acclimated to implementing social media into, their business plan. But I later learned that that was marketing. I have no degree in marketing. I was a mass comm major. I know how to be in front of this camera and behind it. That is what I'm formally trained in. Not marketing, but I taught myself that. So I invested in other courses and classes with people who were teaching social media marketing. And I worked, some freelance jobs, and I got in on the ground floor there. And then I went to an agency for a little bit and did community management. And from there, I was able to find a opportunity with this one company that was the top hair care brand for the natural hair care movement at that time. And it just that opened my world up to opportunities, because I learned so much about digital marketing, social media marketing, influencer marketing, event management, just the logistics of running consumer packaged goods, all of these things that if you would have asked me when I was 25, if I would have been doing that, 6-7 years down the road, absolutely not. I didn't even know it existed. Went back to school to teach myself because I had to kind of tune out the noise. Because my parents, while they were being very supportive, and I love y'all just kept telling me, just go teach, just go teach. And I didn't want to just go teach, because as someone who studied education, I understand that being in front of the classroom with young children, that is an extremely huge responsibility. And unless that is what you are passionate about, and it is more than literally just teaching from the text, it is understanding the individual student. It is understanding how to teach to every single one, understanding their familial background. What do they have going on? How are your students showing up stressed, or are they underperforming? So all of that was something that I had to really take account for and say, can I be committed to these students? Do I have the thick skin to be a teacher in the classroom? And I was honest with myself, and I said no. So while that would have been the low-hanging fruit that my family encouraged me to go and pick, I couldn't do that, because it would have been a disservice to me. It would have been a disservice to the students that I would have had. So they didn't necessarily understand what the process was going to be. I know for sure my parents did not understand what social media even meant. Who needs that? What do you even do? So it just came with having to just say, just wait. Let me prove it to you. I guess I've always just been super creative. So I've always been able to lock in on things that I can show you better than I can tell you. And it's never coming from a cocky place. It's more so just coming from, I get that everybody doesn't have the creative mindset that I have, or the creative eye. So it may not fit their cookie cutter way of, again, achieving success. So this is my journey. So I had to go through the process of acquiring, freelance opportunities. And I had to go through the process of getting in on the ground floor with hair care brands and developing my skill set as someone who is not formally trained in marketing, but yet I have been able to work my way up from living in my childhood bedroom to going through the seasons of waiting my turn, of, living in places where I didn't necessarily, it wasn't my dream apartment, it wasn't my dream neighborhood, but I understood it was a part of the process. It wasn't a dream for me to have to work from 9 to 5 and then get off and hustle and drive Uber and Lyft from 6 to 11 and do that for months on end just so that I can stack bread. But that's a part of my story. So it's like the setbacks from being fired in Houston were everything that I needed to be who and where I am today. I'm a storyteller by nature. It's a part of our lineage. So again, there are other people who have probably worked for more celebrities than I have. There are other people who have worked for, whatever they've done, but ain't nobody me. Ain't nobody me. I'm a storyteller. I have an eye. I can find the moment that most people are too lazy to really figure out how they're going to capture it, or they're not present enough with the people that they're around and they miss it because they're being too technical and they're not as tuned in with the energy that's in the room and with the way that people are connecting with one another. So it's like that. I know I've always had the sauce for that.
Your vision that was pushing you now.
The new vision I had for myself, I sat down and I wrote a list, and I said that within 10 years of being back home, I want to, and this is on the backside of me seeing that I can really make a name for myself professionally in social media and in influencer marketing. I said that I want to hit 3 pinnacle moments in my career, which is to work for a brand that has top performing product, because I know that has a wave that I can ride, in a sense of consumers are going to keep that business open and they ain't closing no time soon. So I had done that. And then I knew that I wanted to work for a legacy brand, which was something that was established, so that I can see what are the behind the scenes or inner workings of a brand that needs to breathe life either into itself, or it just already has like an established community of people. And you're not in that phase of having to build it so that people can learn about it. So I was able to do that. And then the third was I wanted to work for the top hair care brand in the category that was making its way towards that. So I was able to do that within the last 5 years, work for an amazing brand that I've learned a lot from. That's just given me so much opportunity. And I think that outside of the function of what I would do from 9 to 5, being able to have life experiences and to experience financial freedoms that, you take a lot of things for granted. Like I remember when I was so broke that I would go into the grocery store and I would have to think about what can I afford to eat. And the fact that God has put me in a position where I don't have to go into a grocery store now and have to ration on what I physically desire to nourish myself, like that alone is a blessing. So any label, any trip, any experience like that, like when you really get back down to the basics of how far God has brought you, for me, that has been humbling, because not having to have my mom to give me money, or being able to look at my account and it not be in a negative or nearing the negative, or being able to just pay my bills on time. Like these are all things that I've experienced and worked so that I could get out of that state of anxiety constantly. All right, so I've talked and shared a lot about just the human experience of being away and creating my own life and not expecting the sudden shift that I had to make, in the hustle and the grind, and then how to make a career, and, just me waiting my turn, right? But something that was a struggle for me during that period was what was grounding me, what was keeping me emotionally intact and in a the better mental space. In the area that I lacked in was my relationship with God, because during those years that I was living at home and then moving out and, working and grinding, I had become focused again, the autopilot thing. I had done it in a relationship, but I had also done that in relationship with myself and my family. And during that time, what was that, in 2017, 2018, Granny passed away. So while I was living at home, I had a lot of quality time to spend with my great grandmother, who had helped my mother and my dad raise me, while my dad, he lived in the suburbs, and my mom, she lived here in the city with my grandmother, and she was going to school to get her degree. So my granny was a huge part of my upbringing. And at that time, she was in her late 90s. And my grandmother was her caregiver, so she was living at home in our family building. And to lose her the way that we did, I sat with a lot of guilt, because we had gone to that dinner, or the brunch that Alex had. Y'all said that y'all were going to come by my grandmother's house to see Granny, and I took for granted that that was the last time that I had seen her, was when I was the last time that I would see her alive. So I said, nah, y'all go ahead. I'm going to go see her tomorrow. I'm going to go drive Lyft. And I drove Lyft. I think I texted my mother and my grandmother the next day saying, hey, I'm on my way over. And she had passed 9 minutes before I got back to the house to see her. So when I'm driving up to the house and I see that it's a fire truck and there's people on the porch, they looking, I'm like, okay, why is the fire truck in front of my family house? That's weird. And then I walk up the steps and I see that they're not downstairs where my mom lives, but they're upstairs in my grandmother's apartment. And I walk up and I see these firemen. And when I get on the landing, my grandmother, I can't remember if it was my grandma or my mom, she said, Granny passed. And I just broke down crying, because it was very unexpected, in a sense of like this instant guilt and shame came over me, because I felt like I had passed on seeing her for money. And I just felt I was angry with myself, and also probably a little bit jealous of y'all that y'all got to see her right before. And I remember walking into that room and I saw her just laying there. And I had never seen a dead body up close like that. And never seen a dead body up close. And I just remember like laying on the ground and just like weeping. So like the process of dealing with that, I think it left me with like a void. And I didn't know that I should have been seeking the face of God at that time. And I just needed something to center me and ground me. And that's how I became, I exposed myself to the occult and new age practices and sage and crystals and different mediums and things of that nature. So over those years, probably from 2017, 2018, I dibbled and dabbled while still believing in Jesus, but I just made like a spiritual cocktail. And I just experienced so much mental turmoil and depression, and just finding myself very dependent on smoking marijuana 2-3 times a day. And I was a private person with when I would indulge in marijuana. I didn't like to smoke with a lot of people. I didn't smoke in public like that, but it was because I was numbing myself. And it was how I was getting through like stressful, trying moments at work, trying to date people and it just not working. But it wasn't until probably 2021, I want to say, because pandemic was 2020, right? So 2021, I went to this multi-generational gathering that my now pastor, before he started his church, he had this event like once a year. And I remember I smoked before I went to this church event. And he sang this song called You Know My Name. And although I was raised in church, I just wasn't that familiar with a lot of current gospel songs. So he sings this song, and that song stuck with me for like the next year, and I would just think about it. And then I ended up going to a work event where we had this beach prayer, and I heard a whisper that said, "Come to the water." And I went to the water and I prayed, and I almost quietly rededicated my life to Christ, but I still didn't know what that needed to look like for me on how I live my life out loud. And a year from that, I ended up joining my church and just really learning about my relationship with God is an intimate one, that I needed to make the changes with myself, who I hang around, how I speak, what I listen to, what I consume. Because yes, I had acquired certain levels of success, but I haven't acquired the success of just being happy with who I am the way that I am now, with intentionally seeking the face of God every single day. Like, it's completely transformed my life. Combining my natural success and my spiritual success has opened my life up to have experiences that I think is mystifying to people who may observe me, or even when I look at like how, certain things, even in me pursuing and aligning myself with my gift of acting, the way that came about was so organic. But I know that it's because of how God impacted me to shift my posture and how I show up, that it's the relationships that I built, that if I would have still been smoking, if I still would have been emotionally numb, I would not have been present enough for me to build the relationships for somebody to say. And the person who really introduced me to it was Don. I met him through work, Don from Black Ink. He said, "Okay, what do you want to do? Whatever it is that you want to do, sis, I want to support you. You just got to be clear on that." Because I was going back and forth with my identity again, because I wasn't clear on being aware of whose daughter I was. But once I gained clarity on that, I was able to say, yes, people know me for social media, but that is not what I want to do long term. No, that is a job function. It's something that I'm well versed at. It's something that I have a gift. But what I always wanted to be was an actress. I was heavily involved in theater as a girl. I was teaching at Looking Glass Theater in the summer. Like, there were not a lot of student teachers that were allowed to lead classes by themselves at Looking Glass Theater. So this was something that was a part of me. So when he said that to me, and he was like, "What do you want to do? Like, is it social media? Is it writing? What do you want to do?" And I got clear on that, and I said, "Look, bro, I want to step in front of the camera. I get that I've served a lot of people and poured into their brands, but I have to fulfill what my destiny is." And he was supportive of that. He was like, "Okay, send me some of your best content." I didn't have any, reels or hot takes from me being an actress, but I could send the content that I've done on my social media that's, has some features of that type of skill for me. And I sent it to him, and he sent that off to a producer, Cassandra Bell, and I got cast in my first movie last year in October. Since then, I've done another production with her. I just came off of set from filming another production with her yesterday. So your girl is a working actress. But I say all of that to say that if it was not for the presence of God in my life, I would not have been able to nurture the relationship that organically gave me the opportunity for him to say, "I want to support you. You're a good person. You're a sister to me. You've supported me. You've given me opportunity. How can I pour into you?" So I so appreciate the relationships that I have acquired from this new walk. Something that I have come to realize about myself is that I am worth the investment of my own creativity for myself, and that I don't have to go above and beyond to prove to other people that I'm worth it by serving so much for and to them, hoping that they then extend me an opportunity when God has given me the skill set and the creativity and just the gifts to create those opportunities for myself. So that's what I'm doing with this podcast. I'm sitting down and I'm creating my own show where the grinders, the hustlers, the dreamers, and the doers can find a community to know that, yes, you experience these setbacks. Yes, you experience things that are heartbreaking and probably not what your parents told you to do or what you thought that you were going to do. But because you are resilient, you've been able to find a way to redefine what success looks like. And that is okay, because everybody's journey is unique and different, and God did not create us to be like anyone else. He saw a void in the earth and he said, I need you to be born on this day, on this at this time, because there's an assignment on your life, and I am accepting my assignment. I think a lot of times we don't accept our assignment because we oftentimes find or formulate our definition off of what everyone else tells us that we should be. So our parents were born, they see our whole life ahead of themselves and ourselves. And this is what they pour into us, our friends, our community. And people place you in a box oftentimes because that is a box that they feel like they have the strength to carry that box.
So do you have anything that you're like, what is your favorite part, or what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to the storytelling this season. I'm looking forward to the guests that I will have on this season that are going to really share some stories I feel that you guys are going to resonate with, and that I'm going to resonate with, and that I'm going to grow from and learn from, because some are friends, others will be, I like to do some things. So, we're gonna get deep on the podcast, because baby, people are waiting around for somebody to invite them to accomplish, to experience. No, baby, there's no invite necessary. Okay?
I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm.
I see what you did
Do you
there.
see it? Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
I see what
You're picking up what I'm putting down. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so episode 1, starting over.
Mm-hmm.
Houston setbacks to Chicago.
Yes.
This was a great first episode.
First episode is done. Pink papers, pink slips, they have a meaning. But so actually, this is connected to episode 2. So we're diving into a topic that is super close to my heart: pink slips and offer letters. All right. We're talking about how to clear out the noise, refocus, and prioritizing my goals and my dreams, and yours too. It's going to be an eye opener, so you don't want to miss it. Episode 2, season 1. No invite necessary. All right, and thank you for hanging with me through the entire first episode of No Invite Necessary. I hope you got some good vibes and inspo from today's chat. Remember, you don't need an invite to create your own success. If you love this episode, hit that subscribe button, drop a rating, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in from. Follow the pod on social for the latest updates and exclusive behind-the-scenes footage. Until next time, keep it real, stay resilient, and always do you. Remember, it's your journey, your hustle, your rules. Catch you later. Bye.
Necessary.